It's probably no surprise by now, but Mexican food is probably one of my favorite foods. So in this video I'm going to show you how to make one of my favorite Mexican dishes, which are tamales. Now these tamales are going to be stuffed with chicken breast and this mole sauce that I actually brought back from a trip to Oaxaca, Mexico that I did a few months ago. And you could also find mole sauce in the GOYA section of your supermarket. I've actually tried it, it's pretty good, and it's fairly close to the kind that I brought back from Mexico. And you're pretty much just going to want to follow the directions on the back of the sauce. Here it just asks me to add chicken broth, or you can probably use chicken stock, beef stock, whatever you have. And you pretty much just mix it in, make sure it's well combined, and it does get actually a lot thicker, which is what you're looking for, especially for these tamales. You'll want a thicker sauce. And to actually fill the tamales, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to actually cook your chicken in a way that it's going to shred apart. Now here I'm going to use a slow cooker. You guys can also just put this in the oven at a really low heat for about 3 hours. Here I'm going to put it in the slow cooker on low for about 3 hours. And of course mixing in the mole sauce with it. Now you don't want to mix in all of it, you want to actually reserve about 1/4 cup, and you'll find out why later in the video. Now after 3 hours, the chicken should be nice and shreddable, and you do want to shred it fairly finely because when you stuff these into the tamales, you don't want any chunks that are too big, otherwise that just makes your life harder later on down the line. And if you're not enjoying the smells from this mole sauce and chicken, then there's something truly wrong with you. And after shredding the chicken, I pretty much just put it in Tupperware and put it in the fridge for overnight or at least 3 hours to make sure it gets really cold. Now here I'm going to start soaking the corn husks, and you could also use banana leaves. I actually saw them use mostly banana leaves down where I was in Mexico, but I'm going to use these corn husks. And you soak them overnight just to make sure they're nice and pliable the next day, so that way it makes it easier to fold them. And now here I'm actually going to make the corn masa. Now I do this a little bit untraditionally. I like to use a fair amount of salt because I do really like to taste the corn masa. Down where I was, you couldn't really taste the corn too much, but that's why I like to add salt. And here I'm going to add a good amount of fat too. Now you can add lard or any other type of animal fat, but the fat will do. It'll actually just smooth out the dough, make it a lot more less grainy in the final product. Now this is also something that I like to do that's fairly untraditional, is I like to take some of that mole sauce that we saved, and I like to actually mix it into the corn masa just to season it more, give it more flavor overall. And here you can see I'm actually going to start assembling my tamales. Now what I like to do is I like to take the corn masa, spread it out nice and thin. I don't like it too thick, but nice and thinly. And then I'm going to add the filling, which is going to be the chicken and some of the cheese. Now the cheese that I have right here is this cheese that I would find all over Oaxaca. It's pretty much like the Mexican's version of mozzarella. It comes in these huge balls, usually wrapped up almost like string, and it's actually pretty good. Then what I do is I fold both sides over, making sure I definitely fold the bottom over nicely, and then I'll add them into the pot. Now I like to steam my tamales using either chicken stock or beef stock, just another layer of flavor, and you do want to steam them for about 30 minutes, but it's kind of hard to give you an exact time because honestly it'll depend on how big your tamales are and how many you're making. Here I'm making a fairly small batch. Normally for the holidays I make close to 100 of these, and it could take a good bit of time. Now as you can see, I check it periodically, and you can tell it's done when after you pull it off and let it set for about 5 minutes, the corn husk peels away from the corn masa fairly smoothly, and that's just beautiful. And I will say they tasted amazing. It was an amazing experience to try them down in Mexico, and it was also equally amazing trying to recreate them in my home here in the US. So with that being said, please like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Instagram for future videos, and thanks. Peace.